The book, Will, I would say is one of the most anticipated and yet unexpected memoirs that has ever come out, because for so long, you've been an enigma.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, man, you can't say that on TV. You crazy? You an enigma too.
But for real, you've been the guy who's like it's Will Smith, but it's like we see you in the black suit, we see you flashing the eyes, you know, we see you running down that, spinning down that bridge with the shirt open, you running.
In slow mo too, with
the shirt
with
and
the cape
thing
billowing.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we know that Will Smith, and then we see you at the premiere, and it's you and Jada, you know, and it's the kids and it's everything. It feels like there's been literally a AD and BC period in your life. You know, there's before Will reveals himself, and there's everything we're living in now.
Yeah.
And the book feels like that. You know, it feels like you've gone, all right, I'm gonna take you behind the scenes.
I'll take you behind the scenes,
which
right?
we've done
Absolutely,
in movies,
yes.
we've never done with your life.
Yeah. A big part of my motivation was I felt like I have experienced enough and reflected enough and, suffered enough that my advice could be valuable.
Okay.
Right? So the things that I now understand were, cultivated in the battlefield.
Right.
Right.
Survival.
Survival. Yeah. We're not, when I'm talking about something, I'm not talking about theory. I'm talking about tested experience. So I feel like, and not that who I was wasn't true. It's that is true. It's just not the whole story.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just wanted to take the filter off for, I guess, two reasons. One, I thought it's more helpful.
Right.
For somebody who wants to build their life, for somebody who wants to follow and do some of the things that I've done. It's more helpful if I tell you the truth. Right?
I like that, okay.
And then the other part of it is I get to be more free. It's like a whole weight is lifted that I don't have to be perfect, that I'm allowed to be imperfect. I'm allowed to put on 30 pounds during the pandemic, I'm allowed to do all of that. And, there's a certain emotional invincibility that is being cultivated that I just love. I love not being swayed by people's opinions.
When you talk in the book, I love that you've been careful to tell your stories. I know this from writing my book.
Yes.
I made sure I talked to my mom. I was like, hey, are you cool with me writing this? And I was like, these are my stories or the stories that you can find in the press. I'm not telling anybody else's story in that way.
Which is really hard.
Yeah, you've been really good with that, respecting Jada in this.
Yes, absolutely.
And Jada's got Red Table Talk, and then you've got, do you guys ever fight about it that way? Do you ever go like, hey, you can't say that there, or how can you say that there? Or do you ever feel like you have to negotiate where the boundary exists?
So what I did was a 2-week book camp right before I finished the book. So I had written it, and I called everybody I talk about in the book and brought them down to Miami. And for 2 weeks, I read everybody, every word that I said about them. And it was an extremely powerful therapy session going through this stuff.
Wow.
My mother and I had never talked about my father's abuse.
Wow.
And it was the first time.
You guys had never talked?
We had never talked about it. We had never, not one time. And I'm 50, I was 52 at the time.
This is wild, Will.
And I read her the chapter, and that was the first time that we ever discussed it.
And she said, go ahead.
And she was, first of all, she was shocked. She couldn't believe that my young mind had processed it in that way. But it was so cathartic, and reading everything, and I got through a couple of chapters with Jada, and she said, I want you to tell your story. I don't want to dilute what your experience was. She said, of course I was having a completely different experience, but she said, I want you to be free to tell your story.